All right, G. So it's been what's funny is it hasn't been long, but it's been like a week since we last recorded a podcast, and to me that feels like weird and wrong, even though this podcast is still so fresh. Do you feel that way or no?
No, it felt like there was something missing in my routine. That's for sure.
Yeah, because we know like yo, something's supposed to come out on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
This is the first time we missed that, which was interesting and also good because we're getting into that routine. And also we've been pretty busy the last few weeks. You've been traveling, you're getting ready to go to school. Like, what's the update? How are things looking on your side right now?
No, it's pretty wild. I mean, literally tonight, flying over to San Francisco, get things ready for business school. It's wild because like I've kind of been on the road for like maybe 2, 3 months now. So now got to move like into a dorm, like totally different lifestyle.
What, what's it? What's that going to be like living in a dorm? First of all, have you ever lived in a dorm previously?
Yeah, undergrad. So
Undergrad, okay. So you're used to that, and it's
yeah.
not paint the picture for me because obviously Canada is different. So are you sharing everything? Is it like split rooms? Like how does it work?
It's wild, yeah, I know. Because some people hear dorms and they're like, "Oh, so like how many human beings live in the same like four wall situation?" No, it's all good. It's you share a kitchen, but you got your own bathroom, you got your own bed, so it's
Okay.
it's pretty comfortable living. Yeah.
So that's pretty chill. And I know Varun's there, but you're not going to be living with Varun, or are you?
No, Varun's gonna be off campus probably because he's a year two and I'm a year one. So I'll be in the dorms. He'll be in like some off campus housing. That's typically how they split it.
So you're gonna meet someone brand new,
Correct. Yeah.
and you're just gonna okay, cool. So hopefully that's gonna be a cool friendship, and not
Yeah.
someone that's like really random. Because I'm sure things could get weird.
It's different when you're doing it at this stage of life. Like undergrad college is so different, but like moving into a dorm at this stage is just like, it's a choice. It's not like, it's funny.
It's definitely different. Okay,
Yeah.
what's the one thing? This is my last question for you here because I don't want to drill you about school, but what's the thing you're most excited about going to Stanford? Stanford.
I mean, honestly, it's just like meeting new people, like between COVID and work from home, also working at the same place the last 6 years, like now the chance to like kind of meet a whole new group of people, like that's what I'm most excited about at this stage.
Change of scenery is always good.
I know you've been super busy over the last few weeks. Want to give a quick update? I mean, there's a ton going on.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Been traveling to places like Indianapolis, which I've never been before. Shout out to Indianapolis. Apparently, I learned that Indianapolis, the city, was basically built to host events. Actually, did you tell me that?
I actually didn't know that. That's that's
Oh, okay.
that's a
No,
pretty cool origin story.
then it wasn't you. So like, I got to experience Indianapolis, and there was a ton of big conference centers or kind of arenas that as you would call them, and I went for an NBA 2K event, so like an esports or gaming event, and but at the same exact time there was a concrete event going on, where apparently concrete builders from all over the world come, and you have different displays of who can build what and who's faster at this and concrete building competitions, which I thought was interesting. And then on the flip side, there was the shipping companies convention, so FedEx, UPS, DHL all came together, and apparently they hold, I don't know if I heard this correctly, but apparently they hold races. So they take the top drivers from the companies and they hold competitions, where they're driving the vehicles to deliver packages and certain routes, and then they crown a champion.
So it's like Drive to Survive, but like FedEx versus DHL or something like that.
Yeah.
That's actually, I mean, that's not nothing. I would watch that.
I think it was hilarious, like seeing it, and not hilarious. I think it's just cool, like because there's all these other worlds going on that we have no idea about,
Yeah.
but the people are so dedicated and committed. So, anyways, that happened. That was cool. Went to LA. We ran our event, which is really cool. First time bridging the gap between creators and ex NBA players. So, kind of starting a new lane there, and that was really exciting. And then now I'm back in Canada. 2 weeks later, ready to roll with
Who
more.
surprised you the most from the NBA ex NBA players pool,
Uh,
talent wise?
Mario. Mario
Mario,
surprised me. I
yeah.
mean, look, like I said, they're ex NBA guys. They've played in the big three here and there. Um, but to see, it's always different when you see an NBA player in person because you can immediately tell the skill gap and the skill level because they will do things or hit a certain shot that's like, yo, like a normal person's not hitting that shot regardless of your skill. You know what I mean? Or like they're playing against someone their same height, but even when you jump up for the jump shot, like they're literally not seeing you in front of them. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? It's like you're non-existent. And Mario did that a few times, and I was like, okay, this is legit. So that was a lot of fun. But again, like I said, I'm back. I'm excited for us to be back here. Um, we're doing a lot of cool things in our lives. You're about to head off to business school. We got other business things happening, but Brown Ballers, we're here, we're locked in, and we're going to be doing some exciting stuff over the next little while. Not to get too far ahead of that, but September 12th, which is next week, we got some changes happening. I don't know if you want to give a little teaser to that or not.
I can't give any teasers right now. We gotta keep it under lock and key.
Under lock and key. So it's coming soon. You know, that's all we're going to leave it there. Let me ask you a little question. Kind of get this flow, get this episode rolling. If you could be the CEO of any company in the world, you run this thing top down and just you be the face of it. What company would you what would you pick and why?
CEO of any company? Let's see. It has to be. I mean, it has to be Nike, just to be in
Okay.
charge of one of the world's leading sports brands. Like the amount of influence and cultural like power you have, that's got to be the most engaging. That's it for me.
What this is off the cuff. I don't even know if you have an answer for this. You get your CEO today. Boom. Gotham Kapoor. All over the world, news headlines. What's the first thing you do?
Okay, this is probably how I don't get the job, but it's making Nike ID more accessible for everyone. I swear to God, that was the coolest
Yo,
thing. When you were like 13 or
wow.
14 years old, you log into the computer, you log in a Nike ID, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna take these Air Force Ones. I'm just gonna make them what I want them to be. Like doing that for, I know Nike ID exists for like all apparel nowadays, but like that just needs to be so much more mainstream. It's the coolest thing ever.
I'm gonna say two things. First of all, I didn't know it still existed. Just to be straight up, maybe they don't promote it
Yeah.
or I don't see it. Also, I'm Canadian. We don't have that here. Growing up, I remember I used to try to go on in high school and stuff, go on the website, Nike ID stuff, and we just couldn't do it.
You couldn't
Because
do it? Oh,
they didn't ship here. I think eventually they shipped here, but the price was like outrageous. But I
yeah.
remember as kids, like we would spend hours on there customizing shoes for no reason, trying to put our names on the tongue and stuff. And
Hey,
damn, that's a throwback. That's actually honestly a great idea.
if Nike ID was born when Fortnite existed, we wouldn't even have Fortnite today. Kids would be all locked in on Nike ID, I swear. It's it's a
Fair enough.
miss. That's why I'm waiting to be CEO. You just flip the switch, it's game over.
I like it. I think that's solid.
What about you?
Um, could go back and forth on a couple different things. I actually really like the Nike pick. I think just because of how much we consume it and how we're on it every day is Netflix. I think it'd be cool to really see what's going on behind the scenes there at Netflix and how that all works and runs. And also like, they got big budgets, big talent, big things moving there. It'd be cool to oversee that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think Netflix would be a lot of fun. Also I'd love to give myself an original series.
That's what I was
Just
about to say. Yeah, just have a Netflix original would be amazing.
just for the shits. And I put it right on the front page of every country in the world for no reason at all. And we, we just have fun with it.
There we go.
um, on the topics of CEOs, I'm gonna let you kick this one off because I know this is actually your original idea. One of the best ideas I think we've had so far is touching on how we're literally taking over the world. Brown ballers are coming in full effect all over the place, and that's what this episode is talking about. CEOs doing big things in big places all over the country, all over the world, and amazing companies. I'm gonna let you lead it off.
All right. I think this is really funny because I feel like this theme comes up at every like Brown family dinner every couple months, but the conclusion isn't really what it needs to be, in my opinion. Like, there was obviously big news this month. New CEO of Starbucks is Indian origin.
Yep.
Amazing. TikTok, Instagram reels, everyone's popping off with their jokes on like chai tea lattes, like ha ha ha. Like, I get it. I get the commentary. It's great. But like, it's a really big deal when you have 30% of the Forbes 500 all being of Indian origin.
It's huge.
That's a very large number. But I think my question to everybody is like, do you think something is different now than before? Because like we've had a long roster. There's Microsoft, Twitter, Google, now Starbucks, MasterCard. Like, I don't want to read through a laundry list of companies because that's what we always do as a culture. I kind of want to ask you, with the Starbucks announcement,
Yeah.
there's something new now that we didn't have in the past.
I'm gonna give my thought, and it could be the wrong thought on this. I think it's just like the growth of social media and like how much more we're consuming media in general. Like for example, like this Starbucks thing is perfect. Like he did it, and then you have viral TikToks happening, just like the ones you've been watching with the jokes and the commentary. But that's just giving more light to what's actually happening. Even for me personally speaking, again, my experience is like I am consuming a lot more media, and that's why I've been seeing this happen. A lot more in the last few years. What do you think, though?
I mean, I think there's this stereotype for brown CEOs that they all kind of like live and reside in Silicon Valley. Nothing good or wrong with that. It all, oh, why does this happen? Like, Indians are good at STEM and there's a big background in math and science. But I think we need to look at like the actual companies we're talking about here. Like, let's remove the men's side for a second and go to the women's side, which in my opinion is even more impressive. Like,
Yes.
the CEO of Chanel, French luxury brand, Lena Nair.
A huge brand.
Huge brand. CEO of Gap, like literally the same Gap that's in beef right now with Kanye West. CEO Sonia Singhal. I mean, there is obviously tech excellence for brown CEO, but there's also like cultural pop culture excellence as well.
Yes.
And I think it's something that's really cool to think about when you think about, breaking the stereotype or something like that. Like, not that Kanye is going to be in direct communication with Gap CEO, or maybe he is. That's stuff like none of us will ever know. But at the end of the day, like, who's dealing with the Kanye West Gap beef? A brown baller is, a female brown baller is.
Yep.
And that's something that I think is kind of, I'm very guilty of this. Like, I'm on TikTok, IG, and I'm just like, oh, cool, like Silicon Valley chai tea lattes. But like, there's a lot more substance to that.
There's a huge amount. I think it's like you said, it's empowering, it's exciting, and so we like fashion. We're doing clothing also, right? Even just for India Rising and Brown Ballers, we're gonna have a clothing brand to it. Like, this is dope, knowing that there is people, like I said, because it's just so beaten on the head. Like, yo, tech. That's basically all we're good for. Essentially, it's how it seems. But then you have these people doing dope stuff in fashion. Two of the biggest brands. Yo, Yeezy Gap was one of the biggest. I think is the biggest collab ever, probably in the world in history.
Yeah.
And she had to have been leading that. I mean, it's a CEO. You're leading that in some fashion. You're
the one saying like, is Gap gonna go Kanye or not?
Yeah.
Like,
so that's dope. And again, you can say a million things you want about Chanel, but almost every woman in the world, like not every woman, but like a very high percentage in the world has a Chanel purse or a bag.
It's luxury brand, right? Like, luxury, it's just great. Here's the thing, like, if you wanted a role play, it's like really funny. I was thinking about like the list of all the companies. So like from start to finish in a day, wake up at 9 a.m., you get your Starbucks, you go into the office, you're probably using Google at some point. When you're doing your bathroom breaks, probably on Twitter scrolling or whatever. Get home, maybe have some Johnny Walker, Guinness. Those are brands owned by Diageo. Yep. Depending what you're into, maybe at night you go to OnlyFans or you go to Vimeo. Depends what wavelength you're on. But my point is, at the end of the day, all 6-7 of those brands are all owned and run by brown ballers. Like, think about that. That's like I think it's really frustrating when you like grow up in the States and you're like, oh, I feel so invisible. Like, I get it. But at the same time, like, we have to do a better job of educating ourselves on like what we actually have.
Seriously.
Because that's like I don't think you can name that many ethnicities or backgrounds that have that kind of clout, taking into account that like the Indian origin population in the US is like, depending if you're counting NRIs or not, is like between 1% to 5% of the total US population.
Right.
So like, to have that small of a percentage with that much cultural influence, like something's in favor.
100%. I think it's crazy. And I love that we're, like I said, I love that we're just stepping outside tech and doing so many unique brands. Yo, and let's be blunt, like, part of the podcast and doing Brown Baller stuff is to uncover these stories and showcase these people, but also like we're learning every day too, because off top, we're not gonna name every single CEO. It's not possible, right? You can't name every player in the NBA. It's not gonna happen. But when I found out about the OnlyFans one and the Gap one, like I was genuinely excited because those are like two. OnlyFans it's a crazy company. Like the story,
Yeah.
how it's growing, like to where it's at now, it's like it's insane. Like to be able to maybe have her on one day to pick her mind is like I can't imagine the business lessons and things she's learned as an entrepreneur building a media brand of that stature that's had
Yeah.
so much backlash in the news and media, but it's empowering so many people making millions of dollars every year. And something that people don't want to talk about either, right? People don't want to talk about OnlyFans.
No.
It's just interesting, right? To see like where we're at. It's
Which is
dope.
like arguably on paper a pretty good place.
I think
30%
yeah.
of the Forbes 500 companies.
I
Like
think
for
it's- I
cultural
think it's a
influence,
great
that's a
place.
big deal. But I guess the problem I have with it, or the question I have, is like it's exactly what you said. Like we know these stats because we're researching it and doing it. The right scenario would be people growing up in this country just know this stuff off the bat. I don't know what the solution is there. I don't really know how to like even phrase that. But
I'll tell you the solution right now.
yeah,
The solution,
tune in.
the solution is Brown Ballers. Like this is this media platform is here for us to uncover first and then share that back. So when people come years from now, it's already been done. The stories have been told, and we're just continuing to tell more. That's where my mind goes to it. It's going to take us time to develop. That's what we're doing.
It takes time to develop.
time.
I mean, you look at like Black communities or Hispanic communities, like
Yeah.
there are very good, whether it's nonprofits or just cultural brands that do a really good job of this storytelling.
Exactly. And we're playing catch up, essentially.
Yeah.
Is what we're doing. So let me ask you this. A lot of great names on the list. So many more that we didn't name. How much does our upbringing as these brown skinned Indian kids with our Indian parents, how much does that shape becoming a CEO? And because it takes a specific person and a skill set to become a CEO of a company like this.
It's such a good question. I just like am so bad at answering this because it's like what are Indian origin individuals like more disposition towards like success in the business world? Like you can't say that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, these are great stats, but you can't say that. It's the same logic we use when we say we can't say brown bodies are unathletic because we have so many, athletes. So I know that's like a non-answer to your question. It's just people throw that question around a lot, especially every few months when these like CEO announcements get made. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't have an answer for it, but do you?
It's not like an answer. Like I said, I like how you politically answered that. I think it's just like there's a lot of cultures that are similar to ours that raise their kids a similar way, right? Like that's just how it is. So like I don't think there's a direct answer, but I think like at the end of the day, like there's certain things that we learn as kids or through our culture or through our parents. And this will go into my next point, which probably will help us both uncover this, is watching our parents come. And I didn't answer the question either, by the way. I completely tiptoed around it.
Because there might not be an answer, honestly.
There might not be an answer, but it's watching our parents come to our respective countries as immigrants and honestly like work their asses off to get where they are today. And I think like through that is where things are bled down to us. And we kind of, in my opinion, like that's where I see things coming or shaping like who we are as kids and teenagers and et cetera. Cause you're seeing our parents go out and kill themselves. You want a better future for yourself, but you're taking a lot of their mentality and workings into yours.
I agree with that. I think the only thing I'll add to it is like, obviously there are so many immigrant populations.
Yes. Yep.
Like Indians are not the only immigrant population. So like that logic kind of could apply to any minority trying to make the quote unquote American dream or whatever the case may be. Like I think what's funny for Indians is that we are the largest migrant population in the world. So 17.5 million Indians are comprised of the migrant population, which is the largest of any kind of like diaspora or migrant population in the world. But that doesn't explain this 30% of the Forbes 500. And maybe nothing will explain the 30% of the Forbes 500 list. It just is. And like, we should just accept and celebrate that. Like, we don't need to dissect it. Like, I think the funny thing is when I was like doing kind of reading for this episode, I was like going on YouTube and I was searching like Forbes 500 CEOs, Indian, blah, blah, blah. It's something that just really surprised me is like all the YouTube miniseries talking about this issue, like none of them were narrated by like someone who was brown. And like, if we're
That's a
not telling
good
this
thing. Good point.
story, like we can't expect people our age to know this stuff. You know what I mean? It was just really weird to me. Like, it's like there's some really good pages back in the day. Not even back in the day, like nowadays, like Brown History is one, like on social. They do a great job. Like, if we're not documenting our own stuff, then like we can't expect any kind of like real sociological change when it comes to this. Like otherwise in 2023, there's gonna be like 3 or 4 more Indian origin CEOs, and we're all gonna be like, oh wow, like guess what happened?
Do the same podcast. It's the same thing.
Yeah, just do the same podcast, but it's just like I don't know. I feel like something's missing. It kind of like, you know, it's weird.
Yeah, like I said, we're literally playing catch up, and we need to accelerate. We need to like basically just not over promote, but just over create. Like create too much stuff because we just like I said, there's nothing out there, and there's nothing like really mainstream in my opinion that's engaging the Gen Z. Let's just say the Gen Z, for example, to go watch. There's nothing like really. So that's what's exciting. Something else I want to bring up too is just like the innovation around brown ballers, right? Innovation around people that we call brown ballers, right? And there was this video that I think you watched this video as well. The one about in India, basically a bunch of different entrepreneurs and business owners taking garbage and turning them into multi-million-dollar businesses. Do you remember that video?
Yes. Yeah.
There's one particular, obviously, that I think we both probably liked. It was one of the first ones was local entrepreneur in India, literally taking garbage bags, white plastic garbage bags that you would see anywhere. They layer 20 on top of them, they heat press it, and they use that as one of the main materials to make shoes. So they're making like 100%, recyclable shoes, which I thought was like very interesting. And there was a bunch of other use cases in there, but was there one in there that kind of was like, yo, this is, how did you feel when you saw that video? I guess that's a better question.
I mean, it's how I felt when I saw that video was I just thought like similar to what you were saying about overcreating. There just needs to be more content out there like this, like these types of stories. Like it doesn't surprise me that you have this kind of innovation at like a really small scale.
I think something else too is just like, and we're gonna uncover this later, so I'm not even gonna bring it up now. But like, not only are brown ballers stepping outside tech and just doing big things with other really dope companies, like we're innovators. And that's like another thing that we can really showcase is like the innovation that's coming from the minds of brown ballers. Because what I got from that video was, if you can see garbage and think, oh man, there's a huge gap in this specific industry, and I need to come in there and I can use these plastic bags, or I can use, this one guy's using cane sugar. They were grinding up cane sugar into like a dust and using it as a fossil fuel. I'm just saying, like, I just feel like that's a whole nother thing that's like, it's amazing because like there's minds of people all over the world that are thinking so differently. And those are more things that we could share.
More like that. I was just gonna say to add on to that. I think what you said I think I'm able to finally answer the question you asked like in the middle of the episode, which is surprising. Which is, okay, here's the thing. 30% of Fortune 500 companies have Indian origin CEOs. It's very cool to know that like Kanye West is in touch with like a female brown baller who's the head of Gap. But why do we as brown people in the States not have a cultural connection to Gap necessarily, or feel like empowered or cool by that? At the end of the day, when you walk into a Gap store, it's not like you see like brown models in the ads or on the posters. I mean, that's like a weird take, right? It's not like,
not weird, but I keep going.
You get what I'm saying, right? Like, look, if you're nobody has some obligation to like convert. Like at the end of the day, marketing is marketing. Like you want to get the biggest total addressable market. Like brown people are not the majority, like in the States. We know that. But I think the reason why we have these situations where like, oh, I'm surprised that the CEO of Starbucks is brown when we do call it a chai tea latte, right? Because you know that everyone doesn't like that.
Right.
And that's been like a meme for several years. Or on Twitter, when you type in Indian names and it always says, hey, incorrect spelling, when the CEO of Twitter is Indian. You know, you can kind of go down the list and talk about like,
For real.
you know, there's a reason why you don't make the connection that they're like brown CEOs at the top, because like the brown pain points as a customer, you still go through when you have the product.
They're still there. Actually, really, those are all really great points.
It's so frustrating, right? Like what?
It's like
I don't know.
It's like almost at times we feel like we're taking these steps forward, or we're gaining momentum, but it's almost like when you sit back and when you say things like this, it's like, oh man, like we're actually like still so far behind.
I mean, when have I walked into a Gap and been like, oh, I saw somebody in some kind of ad that like I was like, oh, those clothes will look good on me. To be honest, I have seen that at Gap. Let's take that back. Scrap that.
I feel like these things, and we see models all the time. We saw the young boy for Burberry. Like I feel like they just pop in and then they're gone. That's what I feel like most brands have done. Is like they're going to show you, and then everyone's going to get excited. We're going to go buy some stuff, but then the next 10 years there won't be another one.
But do you how often do you need that guy showing up to feel a connection? Like we shouldn't, you know.
You shouldn't need it, but is that where we're at right now? Is like that? Do we need that more to start building that connection?
Well, here's the thing. Like, there's definitely look, people feel invisible. Like, that's why we're doing any of this. That's why Netflix was popping off, because Never Have I Ever, Indian Matchmaking, and Wedding Season were all top 10. And everyone was like, whoa, like 3 of the top 10 all feature like brown leads. Like, I feel seen. But it's not also, it's a bit of unrealistic expectation to be like, okay, like there's going to be a time in which 2042, like all of a sudden, like people of color, the majority in the States, like the top 10 on Netflix is going to like look a certain way. Like that's a kind of a weird way to look at things.
Yeah, it is. But also we could be there. But I don't know if that's realistic or not.
I don't know. I know we're just jumping around here. Like this is neither here nor there, but I'm just, yeah.
Look, this was good. We're starting to uncover more. We're starting to unravel, starting to build out what Brown Ballers is and what we're going to be for years to come. Lots more to come. We got some big announcements coming next week that we can't talk about right now. Actually, as this episode airs, those changes will probably just officially gone live. So we're excited to tell you guys more about that as it unfolds further. And just for me and G to keep, building out this podcast and this brand and what this platform is going to look like for years to come. So this was a good one, man. I'm excited, and there's some good topics we got coming up in the near future here.
Shout out to the editors. That was a very stream of consciousness recording, but that was good stuff. I know they're going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, they're going to enjoy this one. So, man, look, until next time, again, massive thank you. You all probably just, if you haven't heard the last one, it's a quick episode before this. We just passed 1,000 downloads on the podcast. Again, thank you all so much for supporting us. We're literally getting listens from all over the world. So that's amazing for us to see. And, it's a small thing, but that motivates me and G and the entire team just to keep pushing forward, because we know like we're making that impact and we know that you're enjoying the content. So as always, connect with us on social media. Hit us up if you have any questions or any topics for us to discover. And G, you're here, so you got to take us out.
Until then, be easy, everybody. Take care. See y'all next week.